When I look at the left hand and the right hand, they're both strong and vigorous. And yet they're different, which means they express different emotions and they serve different purposes. This one is full of fast notes. This, on the other hand, has the melody. So, how do we make them as two different characters? First, we need to determine their purposes. The left hand is the background. It doesn't have the melody like the right hand. And since they're both strong, it may be a good idea to play them with different colors. And here comes the enjoyable part. Because now we're going to play and listen and taste the sounds to see what makes it more delicious. Just like cooking and determining which ingredients to put and how much to put them. The stormy feeling, which is the left hand, is going to be strong, but it's not going to be articulated. The right hand, though, which has the melody, is going to be articulated, going to be more solid, to the point, and very different. Here we have two different qualities in one body. And what's even more magical in classical music is that sometimes several different qualities come closer and they intermingle, and then they differentiate again. Just like this right hand being so concrete, so solid, and left hand being more loose and mysterious. The right hand towards the end of the sentence, it almost yields to the presence of the left hand, and they both become mysterious and softer. And sometimes it's really hard to differ which one's which. Both hands become so alike, just like in this passage where it all goes ballistic. What's even more flexible and rich is the dynamics and the overall interpretation of the piece. Do you hear that? Just like an echo. So when you notice this G on the left hand, it's hard to ignore it and shape it accordingly. When it's an echo of the right hand, I do it each time less. And here with this chord, the harmony is truly amazing. It comes like a slap in the face. And here what happens? The right hand joins the left hand. Whatever is happening is growing. The right hand joined the left hand. The background is richer. It's growing. And when we get here, the harmony, the shift is truly amazing. So what I do is I change the color. I emphasize this transition by softening it. And then we go back to being furious. And here comes the agitated and sorrowful duet. Each time I play these two notes, I take a breath before playing each of them. As we go more towards the bass, I hear a sense of going away, disappearing. And that's why I play it slightly softer and softer. And the right hand, instead of being played with octaves, now there's a single note. So it's less, it's weakening. I separate this harmony from the others. It's almost like there's a shadow now before we go away and disappear completely, and the transition is made into something else. When we're taking steps, just like in this passage as we're going down, some harmonies give us the feel of, that's it, we're getting somewhere else now. And for me, here is this one. Sounds like a shadow now, covering the melody, the duet. Feels like we're more in the past now, more in the memories. The right hand sounds optimistic and nostalgic. I like to shape these beautiful melodic lines just as I would sing them in the shower. So I group them as such. So there are two groups, and the second one, as you may have noticed, is slightly less. So this type of grouping makes it sound more simple and pure. Right after the two groups, there's this beautiful transition where the right hand goes up and the left hand goes down. There's something humble and heartbreaking in this very short and nostalgic transition. And right before we go back to being in the present again, I emphasize this harmony as it sounds like a breaking point. So when we come from here, I think it's worth taking some time and land onto the G, which transforms into this. The right hand goes up and says, and the left hand landing onto the chord and enjoying the tiredness of it, the wisdom of it, which comes from the memories and the past. And here we have the effect of it, the response. It's the scream accompanied by the echoing sounds. So, not to skip any of these details, I take my time and pronounce them as they are. So as I noticed, the right hand goes up, the left hand goes down, and this leads to a new dimension. Now here we have a scream. Now it's a fluctuation of different emotions, different moods, coming back and forth. After we have the scream, we go back to the nostalgic feel, but it's not exactly the same. The scream has contaminated it, so it's slightly more agitated, slightly less comfortable. And then we're going to have this long bridge. I like the way how the right hand is written in this bridge. And when we group it this way, in twos, it becomes ghostly and sorrowful at the same time. Just like a very pale image chasing you and becoming more and more clear. And after the long bridge we arrive at the explosions. And I wouldn't want to skip this beautiful detail on the right hand because it adds in so much richness. There's a dialogue. So we have two separate ideas talking to one another. One says da da ba. And when we play it fast, it may be overseen. And as we go bigger and bigger sound-wise, and we move towards the bass, there's another thing which is the chromatic scale on the right hand. And it's divided into two. It starts with the fifth finger moving down, and then it moves on to the second finger, where the fifth finger insistently pronounces the G, G, G. That's the polyphony, that's the richness of the bridge that leads us to the explosions. During the explosion, when we arrive at this chord, which is quite scary and intimidating, the G flies to the high notes and is pronounced 3 times strongly, like a stab to the heart. And right after we get stabbed by the G's on the higher notes, they just move away, they disappear in the dark, and then they become a softer G towards the bass, and then it expands and climbs up to the higher notes again. Before we climb up to the high notes, there's a scary effect on the left hand. Which adds in more of a scary feel to the climbing towards the high notes. The left hand is almost like a shivering effect. And as it carries the right hand towards the high notes, and then it goes back to the bass, as it moves back and forth, every time it moves to the bass again, it becomes stronger. The first one and as we arrive to the third, there's this chord, the epic C major, where we land and decide that we stay mad. Now the stabbing, repetitive Gs became octaves, both on the right hand and on the left hand, so it became the main thing. It was an echo at the start. And then now it is the main thing. It is the screaming. Therefore, I think it's important to give these octaves what they need: space. I like it so much when the composers go mental with the material they present, and then they stick to it. They stay with the crazy. And this is one of the passages where it happens. Now the melody is out, now the echo has gone mad, everything is out of control. From here on, the echoing G, which has been in the background so far, it goes nuts and gets stronger and stronger. And the overall theme and the piece itself gains a more flowing pace. Each time the theme is pronounced, the three echoing Gs follow strongly and decisively. The G is so insistently repeated that it doesn't end up being boring, but it ends up being passionate, obsessive, determined. As we get to hear about in the piece, what adds to the passion are these little additions to the theme. And the other one, when it comes on the higher notes, these additions add a more confident feel to what has been said all along. It's just like saying, don't you see what's happening? Do you hear what I'm saying? And here even the nostalgic passage now becomes part of the rebellion. Just like a nice memory can enable warm feelings, and equally, it can trigger suffering and tragedy. Rachmaninoff, bursting out towards the end of the piece, brings out the warm feelings and the nostalgia to the present and includes it in the chaos. And then we arrive at the beautiful transition which I mentioned in the beginning, where I went softer. And here I do the opposite, because now there's no point in taking a step back from bursting out. It's all in the open now. We're screaming. And Rachmaninoff put so many forte on the score that I lost count. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 or 6. I think what he meant was just lose it. So basically what he meant was bring out all the pain, all the misery, all the rebellion as strongly as you can with full force, which means I'm going to use the full weight of my arm, because otherwise these poor fingers don't have the capacity to make a full sound. So as I land on the octaves, and before we finish, we go back to the crazy repeating of the G's. And we move towards the bass again. But when everything is so strong and they're screaming, I like spotting a place where I can go slightly lower and then expand again. It makes it even more hysterical. And the spot is in this passage. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know about you, but I did. And I will look forward to seeing you on the next chapter, which will be Mendelssohn Etude. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.